right, everybody, we've got live humans outside of our friends here, so that's fun. And little cross promotion about to happen. This is the new platform we're using. This is going to be Zoom, and not just for this webinar, but also for the Scaling Up Healthcare Performance Marketing Summer, December 5th and 6th, everybody, guys. Cardinal's putting on the best performance marketing summit there's ever been. They're always, they're for hospitals or they're for branding or PR. This is just me, performance marketing, just multi-site provider groups. We might have some hospital input there too, but I'd love for all of you guys to join anyways. It's in all of our email signatures to our website. We'd love for y'all to check that out. Not the topic for today, but a little cross promotion I promised to do for the brand team. They actually didn't ask me to do that. Just thought I would do it anyways. Okay, it's 2:01 and one of our guest speakers has not walked on stage yet. So we're going to give him 2 minutes, and we're just going to get rolling because he doesn't get cooking for a little bit. All right, friends, this has been our second highest registered roundtable of all time. And we've been doing it for many years and had lots of hot topics. So clearly this is on everybody's mind, or at least it should be. And it seems like it's picking up steam, and it's not one of the most fun topics we've ever had to talk about. As marketers, it's very uncomfortable to talk about legal and compliance and all that kind of stuff, but it's a necessary one. And I'm glad that you guys are all taking it seriously because things are heating up. Today, we're going to talk about a variety of different things around HIPAA compliance. We'll start with timelines and where we're at and how serious this is getting. And then we're going to talk all the way through the potential solutions. Okay. We don't have skin in this game. We come here as your trusty resource for how to run great marketing that is HIPAA compliant. Why do we bring that to you? Well, because we don't want you to get in trouble, and we still want you to run really great marketing that helps patients access care. At the end of the game, that's why we're all in this, is to help patients access care. If you guys don't run compliant marketing, you're going to get shut down, and then we can't help patients get healthy. So we are here to hopefully enable that still to happen. And for you all, despite pixels or removing them, to still maintain wonderful CPLs, CPAs, and lead flow. Okay. And I think we have the solutions here today to talk about it. We have some wonderful tech partners on the line with us. They are not Cardinal owned or invested or anything like that. So they're just neutral third parties that we have found to be good solutions to the issues we are all encountering. All right, let me work on a few things. we're going to hide non-video participants. Did I do that right, Leona? Good. Okay, so we got rid of Ashley and Carly there, and I'm going to share my screen. Let's go right into this. Oh, our company's financials were the other one. Didn't hit that one. That's good. All right. Slideshow time, everybody. We're going to have fun today, despite the topic being very, very serious. We're going to have a good time today, as we always do on all Cardinal events. Number one. Number two, we are not going to be talking at you for 57 more minutes. That's boring. And you all have questions on your mind about specific tech instances, compliance instances, pixels, marketing. How do I maintain this? Do this? How do I get off that? So I'm going to leave 15, 20 minutes for that. Okay. However, so we're not droning on. You see that chat box over there in the Q&A box? Feel free to ask your chats in there when it applies. And if it's not going to be covered, I'll go ahead and call it out. And I'll, as soon as we have a break, we'll do that. And I love that because most of the questions, I've hosted a number of these already for PE partners of ours and provider groups provider group clients. And so we've gotten a lot of questions, and they're mostly the same. And so when you ask the question, it's something that's on everybody's mind. So feel free to ask it. Please, please, please do. You won't be the only one. And oftentimes we have seen this so much now that we're skipping over things that seem obvious, like making sure intro is horizontal to that number one there. We are better at marketing than slide decks, I can assure you guys. We're going to talk about the regulatory landscape. Very fun, kind of uncomfortable. And then we're going to get into solutions. All the way from a CDP and what the heck is that to call tracking. We have one of the best solutions on the planet here. And then we're also going to talk about a Google Analytics solution. Can I give you guys the punchline today? I'm going to give you all the punchline really quick. This is the punchline. Google Analytics, Meta, TikTok, and Google Ads are not HIPAA compliant. The pixels are not HIPAA compliant, and you have to get rid of all of them. The pixels, that is. Okay, they are not HIPAA compliant, and you have to get rid of the pixels or you're going to get sued. Okay, and that's uncomfortable. And this is weird. As marketers, we've never had to bring in legal or compliance into our discussions as marketers, and that's an odd place for us to be. It's like 5 years ago when we had to start really reporting and working with our sales team and liaise teams so that we were all going to market effectively and getting more referrals, but also direct patient acquisition. So sales and marketing became one. Now legal and compliance is not going to become one with marketing, but you got to bring them into your buying decisions, your marketing decisions, your tech decisions, all that kind of fun stuff. So I'm sorry to say that's the world we're in, and that's what we're going to be talking about. Not sure if Ray's here quite yet. So Amol, introduce Patient Prism. What is it and who are you? And how's the JW Marriott temperature today over there in California?
It's beautiful. LA is 70 degrees right now and no humidity. Yeah, my name is Amol Nirgudkar. I'm the CEO and the co-founder of Patient Prism. We are a conversational-based AI platform that understands when patients don't schedule an appointment, and understands why they don't, what do they want, and we enable healthcare receptionists or call center agents to have better conversations so that they can schedule more patients, improve access to care, as you said, but at the same time also understand what's going on from a marketing standpoint of what kind of metadata, what kind of data, what is the patient wanting, and are we giving them that? So that provides very valuable information to marketing in terms of what the need of the hour is from the patient in your demographic that you're marketing to. So that not only we're converting better, not only we're applying AI to better our conversations with our patients to get more patients in our chairs, but we're also understanding how to get them the stuff that they need by extracting intelligence from these conversations that leads to better marketing. So that's what Patient Prism is.
Yeah. And guys, in a nutshell, how a Patient Prism helps with call and lead tracking is when you remove your pixels. I like giving punchlines up front. When you remove the Google and Meta pixels, that's probably top of y'all's mind, you lose all information being fed back to the ad platforms, meaning your advertising gets worse because Google and Facebook don't know if they're driving you good leads, good patients. They're not getting any information back. So Amol and Patient Prism is key because you have the offline events happening, calls and lead forms are being tracked. And then you can pipe those back into the app platforms, Google and Facebook, to inform Google and Facebook what was the good traffic, the leads and the patients. So Amol, Patient Prism, not Amol.
Without telling Google without anonymizing it, so they don't have to know, right? Without, we can give marketers the right information about this was it, but without having Google use that information for something else that they're not supposed to use for, which is why they're in trouble in the first place.
Anonymizing it, but it gives information back to the app and forms and improves the advertising platform's understanding of what is good traffic and drives you more of it. So a Patient Prism, any kind of lead and call tracking, very important to this equation. Ray, I think we've got him here. Freshpaint. What's a CDP? What's Freshpaint? And where'd you get those glasses?
Yeah, sorry for being, can you guys see my video?
Yeah, no, what? Yeah, I see your video and you're not wearing glasses now. So that's cool. We got LASIK. Okay.
Yeah, I'm glad you're doing this today. I just got off a ShushMed webinar where we had hundreds of marketers from across the country. And I ran a little late because we had like hundreds of questions and I was trying to get the last one in.
Good.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about that today, but what we just talked with those marketers, really like people want to know a way forward. I know, Alex, you're going to talk a lot about what's the problem and we're going to talk about the issue, but now this is so mature. We're at a stage where how do marketers restore their strongest levers? How do they restore advertising budget? How do they restore the ability to measure? How do they restore these other things that are going to drive patient acquisition over the next year? Like we're now at that stage where, and we're going to get into that today, but we need to start providing those solutions. So yeah, again, thanks Alex and your team for being on the forefront of this.
And Ray's been on the forefront of this for a long time, has a great podcast all about this with Rich, who's also here. You'll hear him, beautiful British accent. I get to spend many hours in planes with him over the next 2 days. So you'll hear from him. They have a wonderful podcast that goes more into CDP, but you're going to learn today. Shane and Madeline, tell us about Mixpanel. What is it a substitution for? What are we working with?
Okay, I'll go first. I'm Madeline. I'm the account executive here at Mixpanel. So Mixpanel they have like a really large opportunity right now to work with healthcare companies because of the compliance issues that are arising in the market. Basically, we offer a replacement for GA4, and with that, we offer a better user experience and deeper analysis than GA does. So that's a quick synopsis of what Mixpanel does.
I love it. Yes, Shane, what color?
In short, Mixpanel is a HIPAA-compliant version of GA4 that also has some extra pizzazz and spice that we're going to get into later in this presentation, and lets you do some bit of analysis that maybe you could never do in GA4. We actually think, and we're a little biased, but we actually think it's a better replacement for marketers, and we'll get into why later.
Good. And no one likes GA4 anyway, so y'all had perfect market timing on that, right? So good. And we did all this work to convert clients over to it. Now it's fucking useless. Excuse my Spanish. All right, guys, let's talk about the regulatory timeline here. A very fun slide, right? Very fun slide. Where did this all start? In third quarter of 2021, about 2 years ago, the FTC jumped on this and kind of warned the country, hey, listen, we don't know what's going on with those pixels and what Facebook, Meta, TikTok wasn't part of the equation, Facebook and Google are tracking, but we feel like some of it could be against privacy rules, and you're better off not having these pixels and having any kind of surveillance-based stuff on your website. Well, nobody really took it seriously back then. I know I didn't, and Rich warned me that this thing could be getting serious, and I didn't even take it seriously. Well, the FTC jumped on that, and then you had the HHS, Health and Human Services Department. They started in the OCR, Office for Civil Rights. I mean, guys, we're learning all kinds of acronyms. I tell you what, the more fun ones are SEO and PPC, but now we're learning the other ones, right? And so the HHS now jumped on it, and they went into the same thing. Hey, PHI might be disclosed by some of these tracking technologies. We don't know what's in there. We don't know how they're using it. Y'all should be warned. We don't like it. We may start coming after companies. Well, they did that about 16 months later when they had enough evidence that sketchy stuff was happening. And so then you had early this year, both February, March. I think these are the ones everybody knows about or probably were warned about. GoodRx and BetterHelp both got class actions against them. If not through these were from the FTC. And then you had judgments that were publicly made, right? And everybody kind of saw the BetterHelp judgment. And I don't know if BetterHelp's on this one, so if y'all are, feel free to correct my angle here. But from what I understood it was the upload of those first party audiences back into the ad platforms, right? And so we all heard about that and we said, okay, as long as we don't upload first party audiences into these ad platforms, we're fine. We're keeping the patient data where it should be, which is within our provider groups, data set, data lake, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so let's just not upload audiences. Well, that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough. And then you see another instance where it had May of 2023 went after another group, and then it kind of just kept coming. The FTC joined up with HHS, and now they're just saying, hey, listen, they wrote a joint letter. I think it was July 27th, man, just a few weeks ago. And they said, hey, listen, it's not just Meta and Google, it's actually Google Analytics also. We don't like any of this is happening. And guess what's also happened? Not only do you have all of these government entities are making it very clear, and they're sending all of the notes to the big hospital systems, but then you have the class action attorneys, these plaintiff attorneys, smell blood in the water, and anything that's cyber and privacy related, they know they're going to get a judgment. It's going to be pretty easy. What are you thinking right now? What I was thinking that you might be thinking they're just going to go after the big groups. You'd be wrong. You'd be wrong. So what the plaintiff attorneys see is actually the small groups are going to pay out faster. The big groups are going to keep me in litigation for a long time. And I may get 10 million. I get to keep 5, but it could be 3 years of litigation and cost my firm a ton of money. Or I go after the 20 location Cairo group and get a settlement this year from their insurance company. So unfortunately, that's what they're doing. And I'm not speaking from any kind of altruism. I actually know of all of these cases that are happening from other plaintiff attorneys, not me amigos, but I know that these things are happening. So if you're small, don't think you're protected. You're actually more of a target potentially because they can get a settlement faster. Not only do we have the government entities are passing down all this legislation and information, but you also have the states are enacting different policies, guys. And it's not just the North, and it's not just the People's Republic of California. Love California. I'll be there tomorrow. It's also the South, and you see the southern states. You're not safe anywhere. If you think I'm just going to operate in Texas, Georgia, Alabama, Florida, also not safe. They're enacting their own privacy laws, guys. This is going to be nationwide. So the pixels just don't fly. They just don't fly anymore. We got to find a new way forward. Once again, I'm not incented to do any of this except making sure that your marketing improves so you can keep your CPL and you can keep advertising and help connect patients with care. Okay, guys, this letter went out. This was an excerpt from the letter in July 27, 2023. We'll send it out after all of this. All right, guys, PII, PHI, what's included and what's not allowed? Well, what they don't know in those pixels is that what they know is that there is going to be one of these identifiers. And so these are what mask it, and the combination is what screws everybody up, okay? It's a combination of PII and PHI, and I've got some fun definitions here. It's when Lauren will correct me, but it's when you visit a condition page and then you go to the contact us page. It's not only that I know you were seeking treatment for cancer, but then you were looking up information on the oncology page, but then you submitted your email form. Wow, you probably have cancer. That's not good. That's the combination. That's a big violation. So if you're looking to strip information out of these pictures, you can't because URL is included. Lauren, what am I not identifying there. That's important. It's not just treatment pages, right? It's more all-inclusive. Contact us. Homepage has inferred conditions as well.
Yeah, it's the term that's being used is provision of care. So if you're talking, and that can be a location page because that's the location through which you provision care. So I think to think it's just in extreme cases of an oncology page plus a contact us page or form, it's much broader than that. There's probably not a single site page on your site except maybe your privacy policy or about us page that doesn't talk about provisioning care to some degree. So it's quite broad, and I would think about if you're taking a risk averse approach, I would think about just about every page on your site.
Doesn't work because we heard early on from provider groups, oh, we're just going to take it off of certain pages. No, buddy. Yeah. Yes, it doesn't matter. And the pixels are a very obvious flag that you planted that you're running this stuff. BAA, Rich runs our media. He's been with me a decade. So has Lauren. Rich runs our analytics and our media offering, and he was a lawyer in England. So a very timely occasion to have him on our site. A BAA, most people know what these are. The covered entity will typically want this signed with a vendor. Correct, Rich?
That's correct. So it's
Okay.
protecting what that vendor is going to do with the information that you share with it. And I think the key piece here is that Facebook will not sign BAA. So Meta will not sign BAAs for the use of Facebook ads. That's the core piece. Google will not sign BAAs for the use of Google ads and Google Analytics and a lot of their marketing suite. So there essentially is these protections do not exist. And our lovely vendors who are on the phone here, our partners, they do sign BAAs. And that's what, that's one of the pieces that make them a HIPAA compliant solution.
Yeah.
And Alex, if you'll go back like the 2 slides, yep, that's fine. We're not saying that Mixpanel as an alternate to Google Analytics 4 or, deploying Freshpaint or Patient Prism aren't going to collect these PHI identifiers. It's that they're guaranteeing that they're not using them in the ways that Google and Meta are not guaranteeing that they're not using them for advertising or to sell more ads or to, in their algorithm to do better targeting. So it's really the BAA is like the crux of the issue here. It's that they're not stating that they're not using this information in the wrong way.
Yeah, it's something wonderful like Freshpaint. Freshpaint is a CDP specific for healthcare. They start with everything off, but I'll let Ray discuss. Ray, your turn, me amigo. What is a CDP? Let's start with that because this was new to me.
Yeah, well, let's start with what a CDP is like historically. CDP, its goal is to make it easy to collect all this, let's just say PHI, behavioral data that's happening on your website, and then just get it to any of the tools that you use. Get it to your ad tools, get it to your warehouse, get it to your CRM, get it to your analytics tools. But this is highly problematic for healthcare because what Rich and Lauren brought up is that a bunch of these tools in your ad, I call it the ad ecosystem. Let's just face it, like Google Analytics, Google Ads, Facebook ads, even like YouTube. It's all part of this ecosystem where Google is a greedy little pig and trying to collect as much consumer data as possible because it fuels $150 billion a year ad business. Facebook's like what, at 100 billion plus. So this data that they're collecting is extremely valuable. So a CDP that gets all your stuff to every tool is highly problematic because there's no concept of like governance. There's no concept of like giving marketers and legal the power to throttle the data. I think it would be helpful too, because like we started talking about, like, I agree with everything that Alex and Lauren and Rich are saying about what is PHI and these ad platforms. They are never going to sign BAAs. I'm sorry, like it's a $250 billion ad business. Healthcare is a big part of it, but it's only 2% of spend. So these platforms don't want to signal to the world that they want to throttle the thing that's making them the money. The data they're collecting is what makes the targeting so rich. So, okay, well, we know that, but we also know like, holy crap, like I can't stop using this ad ecosystem that drives consumer growth. So where do we start? Like, even before we start thinking about vendors, like where do we start with the framework for solving this? And the first piece, and we've worked with a bunch of law firms and kind of adapted this framework from their thought leadership. But the first is obvious. You got to audit your website. And if you have a product, you have to audit that. You have to audit your subdomains, and you got to find where the tracking tech exists today. Then you have to analyze if PHI is being disclosed. You can work with your IT and security team to figure out how to do that. And then once you find all the tracking tech where PHI is being disclosed, then you got to verify if the legal framework that Alex has been talking about, the BAA, the Business Associate Agreement, does it exist? Because like for some of your tools, it will have to exist or they just won't work at all. So you'll end up in this place where you have a bucket of tools where you either have a BAA or know you need one and can get one, or you got to find a different tool that will sign one. But you're inevitably going to end up with a bucket of tools where you can't get a BAA and you got to figure out a way to keep using them, a la like ad ecosystem. And these are the tools where like, if you're using them today, they don't work. Like your CRM is a customer journey tool that's meant to actually like create a great experience. You're going to have names, you're going to have emails, you're going to have cell phones. And then you're not going to send random emails. You're going to send contextual emails given in the right moment. You're going to have PHI. Like, so you have to get a BAA. Your warehouse is going to gobble up everything. It's going to be your source of truth. Got to get a BAA. And if you're using any kind of like qualitative tools, like a session replay tool, you're going to need a BAA because it's going to have a bunch of contextual data along with some of these identifiers. So let's just assume you're working with your legal team on solving that piece. Go figure out which ones you absolutely have to BAA and go make sure you have it. That is going to leave you with a set of tools, which is becoming a growing list for our customers. It started with Google Analytics. It went to ads, right? Facebook, Google ads are the big spend. And now we're even hearing from customers who said, if I'm worried about Google Analytics because it's sharing health information and identifiers, I need to worry about like hosted videos that I'm streaming from my site, because the video contains if it contains a bunch of rich health information, it's also sharing IP address back to the hosted video on YouTube. It's behaving the same way as Google Analytics. So these are the tools where you're not going to get a BAA and you got to figure out what to do about it. And Rich and Alex and Lauren are absolutely right. Like you said it, Alex, like hanging that pixel on your site is just a signpost that all these lawyers who are immobilized, class action lawsuits, FTCs in play, state levels coming. It's a signpost that people should pay attention to you, because I might as well audit your site because you have the pixel. Maybe you are sharing PHI. And the reason this is an issue is that pixel is sending data to these server farms for these ad platforms as much as they can get, like page information, button clicks, form fills. Even if you don't see it in the tools you're using, they're capturing it into their server farms to do a better job of targeting consumers in the future. So if we want to pop over the next slide, like when we start to think about the path forward, Alex is right. Like you have to remove, like the one agreement that most healthcare organizations we've talked to have come to is they've got to do something about getting these tracking pixels off their site. And so that's where a platform like Freshpaint comes in, is that we can replace all of those existing unsafe pixels. We can even replace the safe pixels. Like if you want to get data to your warehouse or your CRM or Mixpanel, you have a BA with Mixpanel, we can replace all the tracking tools with one. And then on the next slide, this is what we do with that data. So first part of this, as Lauren said, is we have to sign a BAA, because we are going to collect a bunch of rich data about your visitors on the page. But that's only part of it, because that's not the goal. The goal is to get it safely to tools downstream, Google Ads, Google Analytics, Facebook ads. And we need to do it in a way that keeps you safe. And the way to do it that makes it safe is by never sharing PHI to those tools. And so the next slide explains, like, how do we do this? Well, we connect to those tools that are not safe. And by default, our starting state is we don't, unlike generic CDPs, we don't send any data. Facebook is not going to get any data from Freshpaint until your team configures and decides what to send. That makes sure there's no user error. Facebook is not going to get all the stuff that it's getting today with the pixel on your site. It's only going to get the select pieces of data that you want to share. And so that's kind of the next question is, well, okay, how do you configure it? How do you actually like throttle PHI? And if you want to, we can talk about it more today, but if you want to dive deeper, feel free to reach out to our team, and no pressure. We'll just educate you on like how our customers setting up and throttling that data to these different types of tools. But that's kind of the framework of how to move forward.
Thanks, Ray. And I know you mentioned you have a couple use cases because you've had clients in the large provider group space for quite a bit of time that emerged on a Freshpaint. You said no drop in CPL. If anything, it has improved once they have everything set up correctly, right? So they can maintain the same added efficiency that they had.
Yeah,
before.
that's exactly right. That's why we're all here, right? It's like we want to keep measuring, but we also want to keep hitting KPIs as far as our CPAs. You call it CPL and CAC, like what
Yeah.
what's your customer acquisition cost? Yeah, we're able to continue. That just shows you that the current state of the pixels, they're taking way more than they need because it serves other purposes for those ad ecosystems.
Yeah, certainly. Like listening when I talk about Kohan shoes and then I'm getting blasted. Actually, it was Cartier the other day because my wife wants one of those damn expensive bracelets. And now I'm getting tons of Cartier remarketing. I don't need this. I got it. I can't forget. September 26th, our birthday. We'll be at a card. Okay, I got it. So maintaining CPL and ad efficiency, very important. And it's happening. Okay. Ray, general investment range. What is this range? Does this make sense for a small provider group, 10 locations or less, or this is really for the bigger groups? And like, what is an investment range they should be looking at? Is it based on events, website traffic? How do you guys do it?
Yeah, we have a platform. We have a couple of different ranges. It depends on the size of the organization. If you're like a 1 or 2 shop clinic, this probably isn't worth solving because you probably only spend $1,000, $2,000 a month on advertising. But if you're a medium-sized healthcare organization or larger, like all the way up to a Yale or UNC Health, we charge a platform fee for both analytics and ads. And then we charge a monthly tracked user. So you can just look on your Google Analytics and look at new visitors for the last 30 days and get a sense. So we'd be happy to go into detail on pricing for sure.
All right. And apparently we have a URL with Freshpaint. That's very nice. Hope it has our branding and promotion for scaling up the Healthcare Performance Marketing Summit. Guys, all right. So Freshpaint CDP is one avenue you can take, and that's going to help you maintain ad efficiency. And then there's other things. We got to send the signals back into the ad platforms because you're not going to have pixels anymore. After this, guys, you're taking off your pixels. At 3 p.m. Eastern, all pixels are off, right? That's what we're going to do. And you don't have to freak out. Patient Prism and all lead tracking formats are a great way to send information back to the engines. Okay, very important. Amol, walk us through the different things that contribute to this. And so you guys built this thing with this in mind. You knew this was coming. You guys able to sign BAAs with your clients, and you start by protecting everybody's information, correct?
Actually, we didn't know this was coming, but we did it anyway.
Good.
We wanted to make sure that the PHI was protected. And one of the first things when we developed our platform was, let's make sure that we keep the sacred trust between the provider and the patient intact. And we're not really doing anything above and beyond what the use case here is. And we wanted our providers to understand what the patients wanted. And we wanted providers to also understand, and marketers in addition to that, what the patients wanted, but in a way that improved patient experience, understood that without violating anybody's information, which is going to be used. Go back for a second. Which is going to be used in that. So obviously BAAs are important, as everybody says. Encryption is important, obviously, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. Anonymizing reporting to ad platforms. We don't want to tell them what it is, but if we can anonymize that, we do some obviously redaction of information. Data minimization is important. What is the minimum amount of data required for us to analyze, which we're not going to use to monetize everything else, but the minimum amount of that. So these are concepts. I'm happy to talk about them as if we end up talking in a private conversation. But data minimization is important. What's the minimum amount of data? What kind of redaction is needed? What kind of audits are required? What kind of access controls are needed in your organization? Training and so forth. Executive BA is important. End-to-end encryption. Where does that start? And anonymization. So if you go to the next slide, we focus a lot on encryption. We got advanced encryption methodologies to make sure that the data is encrypted in transit as well as at rest. You've got to figure out, there's tons of craziness going on right now in the world of hacking. You want to make sure that your platforms are protected. You have all this information within you, so you want to keep that penetration testing going on. Training awareness is super important. A lot of people just don't even know what's happening. So your team members, your providers, their teams have to be aware that this information, you've got to create secure ways for them to understand what's required of them in order to keep this, become aware and staying updates. You got to keep this up to date. But at the end of the day, what we call is offline conversions of calls that are coming in or forms that are coming in. We want to make sure that the data is within our system, and we're providing it to the marketing folks in a way that's not going back to the ad platforms and providing still the information to get the same CPL, CPA metrics that are needed.
Yeah, so important. And we've seen it when the offline conversions are uploaded back into the engines, helps tremendously with your advertising. A lot of agencies, a lot of in-house teams are not doing that. They're getting the calls and the leads and they're tracking them, but they're not feeding them back into the engines. That's a key piece. That's how you train the marketing platforms. And so Patient Prism, a big part of that. Also, guys, the insights that you get from a good call and lead tracking partner on agents that are succeeding in booking, reasons people are not booking an appointment, throughput of your agents, like all of that, your COO is going to be very interested. This is a business investment, just not just a marketing investment. And guys, you're all going to say, well, I have some call tracking provider. There are call tracking and lead tracking providers like a Patient Prism, like a few others that are heads and shoulders above. They've focused on healthcare since they started. They understand our dilemmas. They understand how call centers work. They understand why people don't book. They try to address all that and they track the right things. The healthcare specific call and lead tracking providers are head and shoulders, guys. And we used to work with a lot of the generic ones. I can speak from experience. Go with somebody that knows our space. Yes, Amol.
The last thing I want to say is we want to make sure that your marketing, your sales, and your operations are calibrated, right? You want to make sure at the end of the day, what we want is growth. And growth needs to come at a good acquisition cost. And we want to highlight things that are preventing you from growing more than marketing, all the operation side. So it's really important to understand growth is not simply one thing. It's a combination of things that need to occur in order for you to go to the next level. So
yeah. We give credit too often to just marketing, but it takes everything. You have to convert the leads we're setting. And don't yell at your ad agency when your revenue is not going up. It's probably not our fault. It's definitely not Cardinal's fault. It's your fault. It's your call center's fault. I'm just kidding. We'll help you. We can't listen to your calls. We can't listen to your calls anymore. All right, guys, let's talk analytics. Rich, you there? Okay, well.
Rich is muted.
I was muted. Sorry.
Oh, there he is. He's in the telephone booth. Tell us about Google Analytics. This whole thing really gained traction with the Google and Meta pixels, and that was clearly a no-no. And now all of a sudden, Google Analytics also the bad guy. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's right. So I think there was a lot of initial heat around the Meta pixel, and obviously, that story stems out of just Cambridge Analytica and everything else around Meta and all the kind of data that they collect on people and how it's misused, that goes way beyond even healthcare and their reputation in the space for privacy, et cetera. But what happened was when the HHS bulletin came out and basically said, you shouldn't be essentially sending data to pixels. Google then came out almost immediately after and said, yep, GA4 is not HIPAA compliant, or GA is not HIPAA compliant because obviously UA was still being heavily leveraged in December or January of this year. And that, essentially you shouldn't use Google Analytics on either authenticated pages where people are putting in their patient information or health information, or unauthenticated pages where you are talking about the provision of healthcare services, which Lauren mentioned earlier. So Google came out very publicly with that statement very soon after the HHS bulletin, and they have been distancing themselves from this, and have it in writing that they're advising protected entities to not use Google Analytics if these criteria are met by the HHS bulletin. So Google washing their hands of it. Obviously, they are trying to make sure that any future litigation is pushed onto the covered entity and does not come back to them. So you use Google Analytics now at your own peril, I think is the key piece. And it is not HIPAA compliant. You heard it from the horse's mouth. It's not just our opinion. It's not just the opinion of Mixpanel because they want everybody to use their platform instead of Google Analytics. Yeah, this is Google themselves that are saying you should not use our tool if you are a HIPAA covered entity.
That is so crazy that they just came out and say it. They really want, they want to be involved in no litigation. And we pretty much just covered it. So Mixpanel. So Mixpanel, Madeline, not just marketing. You guys did not start as a marketing analytics platform. You do all kinds of other stuff. And this just happened to be a little sweet spot fell in. This is a very good thing and a very timely thing, but not just marketing and probably not just healthcare.
Correct. Yeah, this is, I mean, we are pretty much agnostic across industries. But there is, like I said, an opportunity for us to take advantage of the fact that there is a lack of compliance with GA4. We basically classify ourselves as an event analytics solution that's easier to use than GA4 and has deeper analytics capabilities. So we're basically going to provide your non-technical teams a way to get insights into your user behavior in seconds. And that can be all the way from acquiring a customer before they're actually on your site, all the way through that process of potentially booking an appointment, or maybe you just want to see how they're wandering around your site or your application. If you go back, I'm not quite done. I want to hit a couple of those points. So we're going to help you to understand how those users behave so you can better market to them or adjust your platform to better suit the goals of your organization. So a couple different types of people that we target as an organization would be product people, marketing people, and growth people. So those are our main three focus personas. And then one reason, obviously, that you guys suggest working with us is that we're able to enter into a BAA with any paid customer. And because the barrier to entry cost-wise is quite fair, we were kind of considered for that as well. So when you use Mixpanel, you collect and control the data. Mixpanel is really going to help you maintain the confidentiality and security of your data because it remains under your control. We're really only going to track what you send us. We've basically outlined how you might use Mixpanel. So kind of like a best practices decision-making process when using a tool like ours. So you want to start with something basic like how many users do we have and who are they? And from there, you might want to know, you want to dig a little bit deeper. How are these people actually using the product and what makes them stick around versus drop off? How is this new feature that we launched performing? How is this new ad performing versus our ad over on Facebook, whatever. And we will give you visibility into all of that. Then you would take that information to the team, figure out what you want to do with it. And once you make those decisions and put them in place, we basically encourage you to continue to iterate off that process and the cycle continues. Yeah. So that's basically an overview of what we do. And then I'll hand it over to Shane to talk a little bit about how we're different from GA.
Madeline and Shane, is this is it hard to learn this platform? Do we have to go get a specialized contractor on Upwork that understands Mixpanel, how to set it up, the whole thing? Shane, what's the take?
Absolutely not. So Mixpanel is very user-friendly and easy to use. If you don't want to take my word for it, you can go onto our site and play around in a dummy data set in the tool today and try to answer some questions in that data set. We also have support there. You can see at the bottom of the slide. We want you to be successful in Mixpanel. And so if you ever have questions about how do I, get to this specific answer with this report, or how do I analyze this data, or how should I be setting up my data? We're here to help you with that. We give support to all of our users of Mixpanel. Go in, dive in, ask questions, get answers. We're here to help you as well. Yeah. Back to the point though, around, I guess, just how Mixpanel is HIPAA compliant and why are we talking Mixpanel versus GA in the first place? Mixpanel is a precision tracking tool. So what that means is that you actually go in and specify exactly what data goes into Mixpanel. We're not going to be, siphoning off things without your knowledge and sending it over here to do some evil, ad network data hoardy stuff on the side. Everything that you send to Mixpanel lives in your project, and it's for the sole purpose of getting you guys answers to questions that you care about as marketers. So in that vein, we, as you can see at the top of this slide, we track marketing analytics. We allow you to import ad data, not just from Google Analytics, but also say from Facebook, from maybe TikTok, from LinkedIn, any ad network you might be using. We're agnostic. We can ingest that data. You can then use that data to say, where's my best cost per click? Where's my best ad efficiency? Where am I getting the best return on ad spend? Not just for one network, but doing that across network comparison. Which would be really hard to do in GA because they want you living in the Google ecosystem. They don't want you using LinkedIn ads. They don't want you using TikTok ads. They want you using Google ads. We don't care. So as a result, you get that kind of cross network analysis, that greater breadth of information. We combine this with that kind of bottom of funnel or top of funnel acquisition stuff with the bottom funnel stuff. And you get kind of full, actually, can you go back just 1 second? Sorry. The kind of full real-time scope of a full customer journey. You can ask questions about all of this. So combine that with some of our easy to use reports, our great funneling reports, good frequentist analysis, some of the stuff you see in the slide here. We think Mixpanel is a really, really good analysis tool, better than GA. And again, don't take our word for it. Go to our site, play around. You can go sign up in 1 minute and be using Mixpanel and testing things out.
I love it. Rich, do we have some clients that have implemented Mixpanel? Is it easy like they say?
Yeah, it's pretty easy to leverage. Obviously we're thinking about not just the implementation of Mixpanel, but also then sending that data back to ad platforms to make sure that, we can recover some of the functionality that would be lost by removing pixels. But I would say that, it's not been difficult for us. Implementations may take 10 to 15 hours depending on the complexity and depending on what the needs are of the end user in terms of the visualizations that they need to see inside of Mixpanel. But I will say that Shane and Madeline have been incredibly helpful in terms of getting us started there.
Oh wow, sounds like we're sponsored. Shit. What, Shane?
Oh, and the good news is if you guys have Google Tag Manager, which I believe all Cardinal customers have, you can implement using those triggers in GTM, use that to implement it with Mixpanel. And so the tracking essentially is already there in a sense, and you just map it over to Mixpanel and the data shows up.
Beautiful. All right, guys, now's the time. Get in your questions, and y'all all have specific instances, and we've got a Q&A, and this is way above my pay grade, but a good question, Josh Finley. Rich, and you might want to pull this up on the Q&A. I'm coming to you, buddy. By default, Josh is asking, by default, the Facebook tracking pixel and Google tags don't pass PHI info. The page view event is passed as a default pixel event for Facebook, and a similar event is passed through the Google tag. With the conversion event added in, there's still no customer data passed through that pixel. Are you saying these events are at risk? Man, I'm glad I run this shop and don't have to answer questions like this. Rich, what do you think?
Yeah, and I bet Ray has an opinion on this as well. I think the issue, right, is that if you look at what the HHS said, the information, it's the combination, it goes back to the combination of what is PHI, right? And it's the combination of healthcare information and personally identifiable information. So if you think that Facebook has a ID that it associates with that user profile, so of course it knows who you are, right? And then to your point, the pixel is placed on a page about the provision of healthcare services, which Google themselves, right? So that Google is not arguing this. Google came out and said, this is not compliant, right? I think that's the key point that we have to take away from this, right? If Google had come out and said, we don't agree with you, HHS, actually, we're not collecting PHI and PII, that would be one thing. But Google came out and said, we are doing this and you should not use us, right? So there's not really an argument about it. It's, Google themselves have come out and said, don't use us, it's not compliant. And Meta's the same way, right? They're capturing the health information because they know what you're looking at, they know what you're browsing, so they can reasonably determine that you need these health services or you have this condition, and they have a way to tie that back to you because they know who you are. They've got your Facebook ID, they've got a device ID. If they want to look up that you're Steve Smith that has been on this page, they can do that. They have that power, and they are not, and this is the key piece as well, signing documentation that commits them to not do that, right, in the form of a BAA. So I think, yeah, you could say, by default, they're not doing certain things. They're not collecting name, phone, email address in the pixel, but ultimately they have access to information that constitutes a breach of HIPAA compliance as figured out by HHS, as defined by the OCR. And that in its, and these companies themselves are agreeing. They are essentially saying, Yes, that is correct.
Good. Thanks, man. Man, you get riled up about this. I love it, Rich. Rich, a fighter for patient privacy. Yes. All right, Rachel. Shit, I don't know if I was supposed to say these were these were questions that were submitted beforehand, but thank you for this question. I actually kind of like it. If clients have left public Google reviews, can those be repurposed into email, newsletters, social media content, etc., if identifying information is omitted? Or do we need a separate release allowing us to use these reviews in other capacities? We don't have lawyers online. Anybody have the answer to this?
Well, where are the reviews being submitted? I'm gonna make an
Google.
assumption. Yeah,
Google.
so I think this is the disconnect for everyone, and I'm not a lawyer either, but I'll share with you what like 100 general counsel and compliance officers. You have to think of this in two worlds. The ad ecosystems are not regulated right now. So if you're thinking of Google Ads, Google Reviews, Google whatever, it's not regulated by HIPAA at all. They're not covered entities. Like they don't have to worry about HIPAA regulations. Your website is. So anything that comes to your website, that's where you got to start paying attention. So if you run ads on Google, if you put videos on Google, if you get reviews on Google, none of that stuff is regulated by HIPAA. The question you need to ask your legal team is, it's okay to have the reviews on the Google page. The question you have to ask now is, can I copy and paste that and put it onto our website? I would guess you probably might need to get the permission of your patient or user, but the reviews on Google are not an issue at all because they're not covered by HIPAA at all.
Yeah, I love it. Ray, you told me one day I had a future in television. I think you have a future in
marketing,
in a law firm. Marketing if you want, but I think you'll make more money as an attorney. We don't.
Oh man, I'm too old.
We have fun, but we don't make shit. All right, we have another question from Polly G, my good friend Polly G in New Jersey. HIPAA compliance with AI/chat GPT. HIPAA compliance with AI/chat GPT. Can an enterprise AI have a BAA in a closed environment? Can an enterprise AI have a BAA in a closed environment?
I'm not sure anybody on this call is educated enough to answer that. I know that there are many instances where bigger companies are setting up their own AI in closed environments. Then they're moving away from chat GPT. Presumably that's to control, the inputs and the information that's going into the algorithm. But beyond that, I couldn't really comment on that.
A quick comment on that is there is a movement with Anthropic and several other large language model providers to be able to do this in a way where we're not sending information back to Microsoft or OpenAI about things. And I think private language models are going to be a thing of the future. I think they're coming in 2024, where you can protect the privacy. We just don't know. It's so brand new. But obviously, as far as OpenAI goes right now, they have all this information. If you type, But again, the legality of how AI is going to do this in a way that helps somebody violate HIPAA, it's anybody's game right now. But yeah, it's coming. It's coming. I think Anthropic is going to figure this out. I think some other people are going to figure this out too.
AI stuff. We're going to have sessions on all the fun AI stuff. We have lots of questions coming in. Some are more specific to the tech platform, so I'll let you guys answer in there. But I think this one applies. Once again, Paul is asking, so even if a privacy policy disclaims that information could be shared with specific third parties, that is still not sufficient. Correct. It is not sufficient in any way, because in a legal instance, you will not be able to prove that they saw that policy page, that they personally signed off. Guys, half of this is like being able to defend the lawsuit when you get in it. The other half is just not getting it. So you don't have to ping the insurance company and your legal counsel and pay $20,000 in retainers to get it dismissed. So, while that may win in the end, it probably is not going to stop the lawsuit. Right, Ray?
Yeah, like it's not about disclaimer. You would have to get explicit permission from every single consumer to be able to share it. So just putting a disclaimer is not permission from your users. Yeah.
Got it. And thank you, John, for the comment on review responses on GBP. We've got an anonymous question. Meta, TikTok, and other digital advertising networks have a limited list of MMPs for app advertising. Are your tools on that approved list? And if not, is there a way to advertise apps with an MMP that is HIPAA compliant, perhaps by also using your tools. Might sound like an idiot. What's an MMP?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand the context of the question.
Okay, good. All right. Well,
New to me.
see, my teachers always told me there's no dumb question, Alex. Then I asked some questions. They said, well, actually, you should stop. And so I learned. Okay, good. Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one. No, Chris, I can't disclose whether my wife is going to actually get that Cartier bracelet because she listens to some of these. All right, guys, a few more minutes to get your questions in. And we have these wonderful tech partners. Guys, this doesn't have to be a scary future, like, oh, it's a pain in the butt, right? We all have to like get off these pixels and we have to go talk to tech and legal compliance and all that kind of fun stuff. But at the end of the day, you're going to have a better advertising setup that's built for the future. And whatever compliance issues might come, you're going to not get lawsuits and you're probably going to become a more advanced marketer by implementing some of this technology pieces. Like none of us, I didn't know really what a CDP was. Now I've learned about that and they can do amazing things, not only keeping you safe, but you can actually run much better advertising, not just advertising, but email segmenting and all of that fun stuff. So like a lot of these technologies are really important. It's kind of forcing you, even the lead and call tracking platform through a patient Prism. A lot of people were fine with a call rail, no offense, call rail, I love them, but it's not healthcare specific and a lot of the limitations there and with some of the other out of the box call tracking vendors kind of don't advance our mission here in healthcare. So like, I get this is uncomfortable and not super fun, but it is advancing healthcare advertising. We needed this. I'm tired of every other industry being ahead of healthcare. Let's change that. Let's lead the country in top-notch innovation on advertising and platforms and technology. Let's lead. We can lead, guys. We can lead as healthcare marketers. All right, I'm going to ping this thing one more time. See if we have any more questions. I might have one more. Once back again, oh, clicked on the wrong things. Okay, I've got one more, and I'm going to end with no more HIPAA. What percentage of total revenue is appropriate for a provider group's marketing budget yearly? What percentage? That's fun, Lauren. What do you tell them? 50% should go to advertising, specifically Google, Facebook, to Cardinal. What do you think? What percentage of advertising?
That's a loaded question. I think it's so circumstantial. I know what Alex wants me to say. What level of acuity are you bringing in? How long is your consideration cycle for the for the services that you're providing? It's hard to say. It's definitely a strong foundational place to start, right? Demand capture. There's demand in everyone's vertical. So start by being present when someone's searching for you. But the mix from there is, it really should be super specific to your customer journey, how many touch points you need, how much you need to educate. Yeah.
Good. Man, Lauren, come on with the lawyer answer. We don't have lawyers finally on this. We'll kick the lawyers out and you give me a lawyer answer. Yeah,
I have a comment on this. I had a oral surgeon in Miami wanted these $40,000 cases and he wanted to market for them. His budget was $1,000 and I told him, why don't you buy your wife a Cartier bracelet instead of spending money on advertising? You're gonna spend $1,000 trying to get $40,000. You know, your eyes not gonna show up. So you have to really think about what you want to do. It sometimes less money, just might as well not do it. Just take your wife to a nice dinner or vacation.
That's right. That's right. And I can attest that $1,000 will not get your Cartier bracelet. Kate is asking, my compliance officer suggested removing social media icons from our website because it's linked. I hadn't heard about this one. Removing social icons because they're linked. I don't think, not an issue. I would check with your legal and compliance team. Disclaimer, don't sue me, but I would not think so. But I haven't heard of that one yet. Focus on the other ones. All right, guys, like Cardinal takes calls with provider groups every day, many new ones, many that come in every single day. I can't tell you how many people still have pixels on their website. Please, at 3 o'clock, get moving. If you don't want to remove them at 3 o'clock, please contact some of these great partners and at least figure out the process, how long it's going to take as soon as possible. Get your legal and compliance team up to snuff on all this stuff and please get moving. I want to say a big thank you to our partners in crime here, partners in not getting crimes here. They've really come to save the day. Like I didn't even know some of these things existed, and they've come to help our provider groups maintain advertising, maintain access to helping patients find care. Very good. It's a noble it's a noble endeavor. Medical marketing is marketing that matters. And with these partners and with the right strategy, you can help keep getting people healthy. So thank you to Freshpaint, thank you to Patient Prism, and thank you to Mixpanel. Thank you to a Cardinal team for putting this on. And thank you to everybody that attended. I hope we learned something, and I hope you continue innovating in your medical marketing practices. If y'all need anything, you know where to find our partners and you know where to find us. Adios, amigos. We'll see
Thanks
you on
for
the next
having
one.
us.
Bye.
You're welcome.